So, welcome to the 12-Step Big Book Workshop. My name is Lisa, and I am a student of the 12 Steps Method of Recovery. My focus fellowships are CODA, Al-Anon, and OA, and I'm so glad to see you all. I hope we get a lot accomplished tonight. So let's start. If you want to join me in the set-aside prayer with the willingness to have an open mind, an open heart, and the gift of release as we tackle the fourth step and our resentments. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my step 4, and my resentments, so that I might have a new experience with my life, my unmanageability, and especially with you. So our homework was pages 66 and 67, which we'll be covering tonight if you want to follow along in your big book. As we continue to look at column 3, we're looking at our beliefs. And we have to remember beliefs aren't fact. We manufacture them ourselves. And I'm going to give you a tool from the big book that will help you deal with the information that we work with in our third columns. Yes, we're going to go through third column again tonight. I just want you guys to be super clear on what that third column sheet is all about. And we are essentially looking at our self-esteem as to who we really are and what we really believe and think. Because underneath all of the BS and what we tell ourselves lies a realization that we don't know who we are until we are in the set-aside attitude with the set-aside prayer, with the effort of unpacking the answers for the column 3 worksheet. It's really going to show us a lot. So this is who am I? And then, of course, other people, who are they? You will come to see what you believe about yourself and about others, and eventually about life itself. And you will begin to see also how much of this is unknown to us from the realistic part of our brain. Being able to see this begins to give us a sense of humility. And it is this humility that allows us to take a look at our deeply buried resentments. Bill structured the big book in an amazing way regarding human behavior and how we go about learning things. In dealing with column 3, before we tackle column 4, we're close, but I don't want to get there too fast. But when we get to column 4, it's going to give us the full picture of what we've been working towards. Bill says on page 66 that, quote, "This world and its people are often quite wrong. So ask yourself, who did it? What did they do? And how did it impact you? Look at it from a totally unilateral view, from the outside to the inside, from the world to its impact that it's had on you." So to continue, that others were wrong was as far as most of us have ever gotten. And that is especially true today in this culture of victimhood that we have. The usual outcome being that people continue to wrong us and we stay sore if nothing changes. It sounds really simplistic until you sit with it and you embrace it. Then when you see in your own life that you don't change anything, your attitude and or your behavior, then nothing else changes in terms of your experience of your world around you and your experience of yourself. You might have asked yourself if you should put yourself on the resentment list after you realized you're pretty pissed off at yourself. And the answer is a soft yes. You do, because Bill endorses it in the big book, and he says, sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. And the reason I'm saying soft, it's a soft idea, is because we need to be really clear and really honest and really practiced before we do a self-resentment because it's going to be the hardest one. And we really don't want to get into a resentment if we haven't learned all of the key parts, but also if we're not in a place where we're feeling really honest about the whole thing. We don't either want to build ourselves up over something that's not real or knock ourselves down, because we're pretty good at doing that also. And as a reminder, we are selfish and self-centered, and that's the root of our trouble. So I don't want it to be a negative impact. So if you can, hang on to the self one for now. The fourth step is actually the first step that we do in writing. Bill said, as in war, the victim only seemed to win. It was a delusion. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. So he's getting us ready, being the literary genius that he was. Then he dives deeply into the subject matter and says, it is plain that a life which includes deep resentments, and he's referring to transitioning from the large list that we have, as it is somewhat generic and sort of unspecific, but also an overly large list of resentments, whether it's 30, 60, or 90 entries. In your relative life, that's a pretty large list. And Bill's letting us know that not everything is deep. Not everything is a 4,000-pound shark bite. Some are mosquitoes, some are bees, because obviously you're clearly irritated, but we want you really irritated. It is obvious that a life that includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness, and ultimately addiction with relapse. So on page 66, Bill says, it is plain that a life that includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. It is clear that after you do the third column, and even just making that list, Bill says, to the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. So we grow in understanding and effectiveness. If you get a chance, read pages 84 and 85, where he says, we've entered the world of the spirit. Our task now is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. So the more I understand and study this book, the more I am blown away. The internal integrity is just staggering to me, and that Bill just seemed to make this whole thing come about with ease. He says, but with the addict, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. Bill's confirming that he isn't just blowing smoke up our butts when his next sentence is, we found that it is fatal. Oh yeah, it is. It will put you in your grave or make your life a living hell. For when harboring such feelings, the anger feelings and the resentments, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. When Bill wrote that, he meant that negative emotions like anger, resentment, and self-will create a spiritual and emotional blockage that prevents an addict from accessing the Father of Light, or spiritual guidance needed for recovery from our higher power. This blockage, when strong enough, can lead back to using, which is why Bill considered these emotions lethal for the recovering addict. Deep in our souls, we have a relationship with the sunlight, but the clouds of resentment, fear, and dishonesty shut us off from the sunlight, and we struggle, full of fear, and we live in the darkness. The insanity of addiction returns. Bill's meaning of obsession and insanity, and his definition of not cured, because our minds are always vulnerable unless they are in the protective custody of a relationship with the spirit and its spiritual shield. In step 2, we came to believe, and it restored us to sanity. The protection from the obsession, and if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable by a lack of diligence with regards to our spiritual life, then we use steps 10, 11, and 12. The spiritual shield wears thin or gets cracked, allowing for vulnerability to the obsession, and then we use again. We engage and we relapse, and for us to use is to eventually die. To relapse is to die. We first die spiritually, and then eventually we will die physically. Perhaps in 1939 it was more of a speculation, but not today. Statistically, we have medical evidence of the chaos it creates in our physical and psychological lives. Bill then says, if we were to live, he's not saying if we were to deal effectively with our addictions, that's not what he means here. If we are to live, and he means to manage our lives on reasonable terms, we had to be free of the anger, free of any of the synonyms for resentment. This is not about a brainstorm in the boardroom. We aren't looking for creative ideas. This is more of a sandstorm, like you would see in the desert. It's a storm that kills everything in its wake. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men. Well, we wouldn't be here in this workshop if we were normal. We might be abstinent and we might be spiritually fit for a short or long time, but you're not normal at any juncture, as we have all been addicted, which means we are not normal and never will be. That's on page 30. We have to concede to our innermost self that the delusion that we are like other people, or presently me, I am quoting the presently, needs to be smashed. This fourth step is the smashing of the false self, the smashing of the ego, this disintegration of the persona, the mask, the wall that we have built as our survival mechanism, not realizing the entire structure has a boomerang effect. And now, instead of a wall that protects us, it has become our prison, our home. It's more like a war zone. Bill says we turn back to our list. So again, he is having us look at our list because it holds the key to our futures. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. So we are looking at the list from who did what and how did it impact me. And we've seen it throughout our lives historically. But now Bill is saying, I want you to take a look at the deep ones. So we make a separate and smaller list of the deep ones. Of the almost 25 resentments, I had 8 deep ones. My ex-husband, my new husband's ex, 3 siblings, my sister-in-law, and my parents. These are my deep resentments, meaning they were not superficial. They were a smoldering hot lava. They are a huge shark bite. So Bill says, we began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. Column 1 and 2 is the domination. In that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill, which is column 3. Bill says, fancied or real, and what does this mean? Did it actually happen? The event itself? Of course, your feelings and perceptions of the event are real and your reaction is real, but did it have any basis in reality? This is where the 4th column comes into play. When I wrote out my inventory, although I did not like it, the results didn't lie. About 30% of the resentments on my list had no standing in reality. My distorted thinking had made it up, and I wouldn't spend a lot of time on the how or why of it. It is only important to know that it was a complete fiction. Very shocking. On page 66, Bill says, how could we escape? We saw that resentments must be mastered, but how? We could not wish them away any more than alcohol or our addiction. What Bill is trying to convey here is that we are powerless over our resentments. in terms of removal as we are in managing our addiction. I believe there is no other interpretation. The whole concept of step one, body, mind, and spirit, is that we have no choice in deep resentments. No choice at all. According to step one, Bill says we have to have God's help. We realize that people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick also. Which brings us to the need for God's help, because we need a change in our attitude. I could make a choice to take the high road and look down on the wretched souls that are spiritually sick, but that doesn't sit well with Bill, and he knows how we operate. So on page 67, he says, though we did not like their symptoms, columns 1 and 2, and the way these disturbed us, column 3, they, like ourselves, are sick too. I am sick. We are sick. Everyone is basically sick. I don't see quite right. There is something not completely right with me. Something is off. And that's what the next chapter is going to get us. So Bill's getting to the heart of the matter now. He is hitting the bullseye. He says, we ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. And as noted previously, no more than on one occasion, we noted that Bill suggests that you talk to God, and what he means is to pray. We ask God now. This is the very serious question from Bill, and it is important to understand that we are talking about not praying for someone else, but this is about praying for ourselves. If you thought it was for someone else, you would be wrong. This is totally praying for ourselves to get out of our resentments. We own them. So let me say it again, because it's not what it's saying. It says we ask God to help us show them. I'm asking God to intervene with me so that I am given the freedom from the resentment. And we ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully convey to a dear friend. God, please change my attitude, perspective, feelings, and behavior. When a person has offended, we said to ourselves, this is a spiritually sick person. How can I be helpful to them? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. So Bill says we avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. You know how compassionate you are when you go to a hospital to visit someone and you see all the people in need. You don't know them, but it still touches you. You want to help them all, but you can't. But you can send them prayers for their highest good. If we treat sick people with disdain, we remove the possibility of being helpful. And Bill really emphasizes the helpfulness needed multiple times throughout the big book. Helpfulness is our purpose, the antidote to our addiction. Our human nature is to be helpful, even when we don't know the person. We may not be able to help everyone we encounter, but our higher power will guide us to a place where we can view each one with kindness and love. So, this is a kindness story. When my children were young and my sister had some young children, her and I would load our children up in the early morning and would make a variety of sandwiches and snacks, and we'd go in to Boston on Thanksgiving Day to seek out the very difficult homeless people that would not go to a shelter to get a Thanksgiving meal. It was a tradition that started as an example and lesson in kindness, and as our children got older, they really started to enjoy it. At first, it felt like a chore, but then we would really, we'd have a great time. We'd go to the tougher back alleys and the the obscure places to feed the very hardened homeless. There were a lot of places that offered food, but we wanted to look for the people who wouldn't go to the shelters or churches. We wanted to help the ones who couldn't leave their little tiny spot on the earth that they had chosen. In one year, I sat next to a very bright-eyed older gentleman who I would guess was in his 70s, and he had been homeless for many, many years, and he would spend his days on this particular park bench. He had taken ownership of it, and in this park in Boston, which is a fairly large park with a lot of homeless people, but a lot of action or whatever. So I was talking to this gentleman. He was very talkative, and I asked him why he was homeless and how it made him feel. And his response was, to me, it changed my life forever. His reply was, my purpose is that I sit on this bench and I talk to so many people about so many things. I touch more lives in a single day than most people will touch in their lifetimes. He said, they look at me and they feel so many emotions. Some people are motivated not to become homeless, and some are enticed to do something about the homeless situation. But what they all bring to my park bench is empathy. He said, I am changing people's attitudes, one person, one day at a time. And my situation makes them stop and think, not just about me, but about themselves, if only for a day or a moment. And it's remarkable how many people I've touched. And this was just a mere homeless man from a park bench. But he had this grasp on what life was about. It wasn't about houses and cars and jobs and all that stuff. It was basically how he showed his kindness to all the people who walked by his bench in a state of fear or anger, anxiety. He didn't have any of that. All he felt was kindness. And he was so remarkable. He really got me in the heart. I'll just never forget him, the kindness that came from him. And so many people would look at him and say, "Oh, he's just some homeless bum on a bench." He was so much more than that. He really understood what life was about. So, anyways, so we identify and list the people that you have a deep, deep resentment for. It could be one or two, or maybe none, or whatever your history with the 4-step is or was doing it this way. You're going to reveal more than any other method of implementing the step 4 inventory. So pick out the ones that are really, really big hitters, and you can always go back and add more, or you can add them to a different list or whatever you want to do. But at least for the beginning and the time constraint, try to get those really heavy hitters up to the front of the line so we can tackle them right out of the gate. And you might be surprised, some of the smaller ones will just kind of go away. So once we make that list, we begin a prayer practice we make our own prayer for the freedom and removal of the resentments on a daily basis. So the number of resentments will be the number of prayers, meaning the resentments will each have their own focus person, institution, ideal. And some of these will be large enough that they will get an additional A, B, and C. Like maybe you had a really tough time with your mom and you have multiple resentments and they're huge, so they get their own little subcategory. And the prayer for removal is a very important step in the recovery process, especially in the resentment part. I work with people all the time and they struggle with the resentments and the release of them. And I will ask them if they're saying the prayer for release on the daily. And more often than not, they will ask me what prayer I'm talking about. So, no prayer, no removal. Only our higher power can remove the resentment. And we give our consent for the removal from our higher power through prayer. So after we finish our sheets and we've started the prayer practice, the recommendation is 30 days. It might not take 30 days for certain ones. It might take more than 30 days for certain ones. You will actually, as you do this prayer repeatedly, at some point, some people will just kind of fall off because they aren't really up at the top of the list anymore. So that's why that prayer is so important. You can either change it to fit each person, or you can keep it generic so that if you want to get through them quicker, you can do it that way. Obviously, the more specific you are, the faster it will go. So it might be worth a little bit of your extra time. But don't skip the prayer. The prayer is so important, and so many people don't understand that or don't get the memo that says you need to do the prayer. So, and also when you're doing your resentments, you might find that you've got some hidden or buried anger that surfaces. But don't let that stop you. Keep praying, and before you know it, you'll be free of your resentments. Remember, this is a process, and life is still happening as we do this work. And more resentments may crop up, but they won't be the shark bites, but more like a mosquito bite, because we're learning where the discomfort comes from. And it is a universal answer. You're gonna see that as we go along. Rochelle, do you have a question? You're muted.
Um, I've done this a couple of times and I'm still having trouble understanding this. I'll just use, in my case, it was my brother. And I was told to pray that the sick man's prayer was to pray for him to have everything that he needed, and that was the prayer. But you're saying the prayer is for me to release my, oh, so I
Yeah.
mean, I
The
did
first
feel better. I did it for about 10 days, and at the end of 10 days, I just didn't really care any. I didn't have this burning desire for him to have everything he wanted, but my resentment was way less.
good.
And so in that way, it took the steam out of the engine. But you're saying that I should pray for myself to release. That's the proper use of the prayer there. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
if you look at the first line, it's God, and you put the name in. I'll use Drew. God, Drew, like me, is a spiritually sick person, like
Right.
me. So we're talking about ourselves,
Okay.
about prayer. So we're praying for the release so that we can remove the resentment, not the person. The person doesn't might not even know we have the resentment. So to pray for them, you're praying for your brother helped remove the resentment, which is great, and it could happen. But when you get more specific and you use the prayer the proper way, you're going to pray for yourself to remove your resentment, because then the relationship with your brother is going to be good because the resentment's gone.
Got it.
All right. So I was saying, remember, it's a process. Life is still happening. You could have more resentments come up, absolutely. Um, but eventually, you're going to know as soon as the resentment starts happening and you can feel it building, you're going to know how to stop it. Whereas before, that resentment might have ran its cycle like a hamster in a little those spinning wheels for years. But when you understand how resentments work and where they're actually coming from, when you start creating a new one in your head, it's not going to happen. Go ahead, Susan.
I missed slides 1 and 2. I had to jump off. Could you just quickly
Yep.
show them?
So one is we want to identify and make our list. And we're talking about the deep dive, meaning the big
Mhm.
kahunas, not your little, my mailman puts the mail in the box funky. This is more
Got it.
other beat the crap out of me, and now I have this resentment. So it's the big ones. And then the second step is we pray. We pray about our resentments on a daily basis for each resentment that we have. So if we have 8 resentments, we're going to do 8 prayers a day.
Uh-huh.
And we do want to do that probably for about a month. But like Rochelle said, after 7, 8, 10 days, she started to feel better. I would say if you're starting to feel better, keep going just a little bit further so that you get past that edge, so you're not kind of hovering there. But definitely do the prayer. And then the third one is the reason that we do this is that's where the freedom is. When we get that prayer and we say, basically we're all in the same boat. How are we judging? Why are we judging? We're all the same. Therein lies the freedom, because then we can move on from the resentments and not live in that crazy, crazy place that drives us to our addictions.
Thank you for filling me in. That's very helpful.
No problem. So, and I do want to make a special point here about trauma. There is a critical difference regarding abuse when the resentment is toward an abuser. This framework requires careful interpretation and must be handled with a sponsor or someone who understands trauma. Trauma is different. The distinction is not to find a mistake in being abused, but in how the addict has reacted to the trauma and allowed it to affect their current life. The intent is never to blame the victim for the abusive event. Experienced sponsors will never suggest that a survivor had a part in the abuse itself. Instead, the focus is on the survivor's own subsequent behavior, such as using the trauma as a pretext to keep using or taking anger out on others. The mistake is holding on to the resentment. For a trauma survivor, the mistake is often defined as allowing the memories of the event to fuel resentment and continue poisoning their life long after the abuse occurred. So the goal is to release the abuser's effect and reclaim one's own happiness in spite of the events that happen. Bill's core message regarding forgiveness is that you let go of resentments for your own sake, not for the benefit of the other person. Forgiveness as a gift to yourself. Holding on to bitterness can destroy an addict's recovery in about 30 seconds. The resentment prayer asks that you pray for yourself. You can also pray for the person in the resentment, requesting for their health, their prosperity, your happiness. This is not for the perceived abuser, but for the addict, as it frees us from the control of anger. So once there's been abuse or trauma, and we take that into our later life, some people decades later, there's a sense of control that can be gotten from that actual anger. As long as we feel like we're controlling the anger, we kind of feel like we're controlling the event, which of course we're not. But because the 12 steps is not a trauma-informed program, members might find it necessary to seek external help to process the trauma of abuse. The path to healing from abuse involves addressing the root trauma, which is outside the 12 steps primary purpose. Many survivors in AA find licensed therapists invaluable for safely processing their experiences. So if you have been a victim of trauma and you were not an adult at the time, so we're talking like if you had childhood trauma or abuse or whatever horrible thing might have happened to you, you have no responsibility in that action whatsoever as a child. Children do not have that responsibility. If you do have trauma and you haven't worked with a therapist and it's coming up maybe in resentments and you're really having a hard time, I highly suggest you speak to a really good therapist, because that is a huge, huge shock bite, but it's not like the rest of the stuff. It's a whole different world, really. So this is Herb's prayer for freedom from resentments. He revised it himself. Most of the wording is from the big book, but Herb bullet pointed it and cleaned it up a bit with some input from people in his groups like us. So it's God, Drew, like me, is a spiritually sick person. Please help me to show Drew tolerance and compassion and patience. Release me from being angry. Enable me to release this resentment. Remove this resentment. Show me how to take a kindly and tolerant view of Drew. Bring me to accept reality as it is. Show me how I can be helpful to Drew. Thy will be done. So, release is a direct pathway to forgiveness. It is a choice to release them and remove this resentment. It is a direct request from my higher power to show me how I can be kind and tolerant to Drew, to bring me to a place where I am able to accept reality as it is, and show me how I can be helpful to Drew. And we end it with, thy will be done, because this isn't about controlling God. It's about letting God know that I am expanding my consciousness, and what I think should happen doesn't really matter. It's really up to God to make thy will be done, not mine. So, and this really works, so don't put it off. All the people who have worked with this prayer have found it remarkably effective in finding freedom. And one of the homework assignments was to make your own resentment prayer. So I did this side by side, and I'm going to explain why I did what I did. So Drew, like me, is a spiritually sick person. Please help me to show Drew compassion and patience. I removed the word tolerance. His behaviors I could not tolerate. I couldn't tolerate a lot of the abuse. So I removed the word tolerance and just left compassion and patience. Release me from being enraged. I am not angry. I'm enraged. So that's why I made a change there from angry to enraged. Enable me to release this resentment. I wrote, enable me to remove this resentment. Remove this resentment. Show me how to take a kindly and tolerant view of Drew. So I decided I would like to be taught how to take an empathic view of Drew. I think that as far as my reach will stretch. I just don't see me doing a kindly and tolerant view, but I can be empathetic to whatever his sickness is that made him behave the way that he did. So show me how I can be helpful to Drew. Bring me to accept reality as it is. I put, show me my true reality as it is. The original prayer is, show me how I can be helpful to Drew. I wrote, guide me to be helpful to those in need. I'm crossing out Drew. I'm going to be helpful to people in need, not somebody who was abusive to me. So I felt it was important to change those words, and I ended it, of course, with thy will be done. So that's a revised prayer. I took the original prayer, I used the Drew person, and I still want the resentment removed, and I still want it to be as powerful and effective as it can be. So I didn't take too much of it out, but there were a couple of words that stuck for me that I knew if they stayed in there, I wasn't going to take the prayer seriously. And tolerance was one of them. So as you're going over your lists and you're starting to do your resentment prayers, um, like I said, you can use the generic herbs, basically prayer, or you can take the prayer and customize it to the precise resentment that you're dealing with. And it's like anything I've said about the other things. However much you put into it is how much you're going to get out of it. So for me to get past this resentment, I needed to change some of those words because it wasn't working with the words that were in there. I couldn't get over the hump. So if you're finding that you've got a resentment that just isn't moving, look over the prayer that you're saying and see if the prayer makes sense to you, or is there something in the prayer that you're getting stuck on, and because you're stuck, the whole thing's not moving. Go ahead, Joel. You're muted.
Can you make your prayer condition it to the way that you think about these things? Like when I saw the homework assignment and I redid the prayer, I redid the prayer basically in the way that I think towards the way that I see people and looking at it through I guess my legal education, and I changed it drastically, and I made it maybe a little bit too long, but I certainly I don't think I lost the general gist of it, but I sort of added a bunch of things to it that I thought, might that sort of tailored it to the way that I think a little bit more. So I didn't tailor it to each specific person that I had my resentment against, but I tailored it to the way that I look at people. And I don't know if that's legit or not.
It's legit, but I have to say, what got us here to begin with is screwed up thinking.
That's true. And that's why I'm asking you the question.
Yeah. So if you go into that prayer that you've rewritten and you see that it's the same BS thinking that got you into the problem that you've put into your prayer, it's not going to work. So I would say you can alter this to your needs, but the more you alter it, the more you're going to get away from ground zero. So I would do it with a very light hand. I wouldn't mess with it too much because it actually really works the way that it is. For me, those couple of things that you can see there, I needed to change those. So I was giving you, an example of what you might want to do. But be real careful with how far you go with it. We actually are going to share our prayers. Do you want to share yours and I can help you with it?
Yeah, sure. When the time comes, if you want me to do it now or you want to
Yeah,
wait?
if you're ready.
All right, I'll do it now. Okay. Um, Dear High Power, um, I'll use Drew instead of or Exo. Drew may have wronged me intentionally or unintentionally, through action or omission, by hatred or indifference, but like me is of flesh and blood, not divine, high or powerful, or spiritually perfect in any way or shape or form. Please allow me to move past my deep resentments towards Drew and show him my sincerest tolerance, compassion, patience, and humanity. Please, I beg, release me from being angry. Let me move past thinking about revenge or my own injury. Enable me to release this resentment from my heart and mind. Remove this resentment against Drew forever. Permit me to look better upon Drew, although he may not have changed for the better in any way or shape or form. Bring me to accept reality as it is, and show me how I can, within the bounds of my humility, forgive him. Show me how I can be helpful to Drew. Thy will be done.
Okay. So there were a couple places that I would remove. When you started with Drew may have wronged me at the very beginning,
Yeah.
we don't want to put that in there because this isn't about Drew. The resentment is the issue. So we don't want to get into our prayer describing another person.
Okay.
The next thing that I heard was you were saying about my revenge. Just completely take that out of that. It's too much negativity.
Okay.
And then he may not have changed. Also remove that because that's about him. And we don't get to tell God, God, I'm going to pray for him, but just so you know, he might not have changed. So you might not want to help me out here.
No, that's not what I was saying. I was
Yep.
going to say I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the
Okay.
last piece would be the forgiveness. That's going to come up later on, so you don't need to add that in either.
Which way is that?
When you do your amends, there'll be forgiveness with the amends. So this isn't really about amends. This is about the removal of your resentments.
So
Very
I'm not asking to forgive him or her. I'm just asking to remove my resentment.
exactly. Nothing more, nothing less, but huge endeavor that really makes a massive change in your life.
Okay.
So, you had some good points in there. Just remember, it's about you, and stay as close to the prayer as you can, because we know from history and from statistics and all that this prayer really works. It really works. So we want it to really work for you. So try using it as close to the original as possible. Unless, like I said, there were a couple words in there that I couldn't use with this particular person. But I would not probably struggle with it this way with another person.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Go ahead, Carol.
Hey, Lisa, I'd like to read my prayer too, and would you go over it?
Yep.
You would tell me if it's all right?
Yep.
Dear God, Ariel, like me, is spiritually and mentally unsound. Please help me show Ariel tolerance, warm-heartedness, kindness, and patience. Free me from my resentments toward her. Show me how to take a positive view of her and focus on her good characteristics. Help me accept reality as it is. Help me see the truth. Guide me and show me how I can be helpful to her. Thy will be done.
All right. What was the part you said about show me? It started with show me something about her.
Show me how to take a positive view of her and focus on her good characteristics or good qualities.
That's a little too specific.
Okay.
So do more of, you could maybe word it more like show me, how would I put that? You want to keep her name, or her, say this. Read the sentence again. Show me
how to take a positive view of her and focus on her good qualities.
I probably would remove that whole sentence.
Okay.
But as I'm saying it, Carol, if you're already using that prayer and you're feeling like it's really a home run, I would say go ahead and use it. But again, don't go too far over to one side or the other.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Go ahead, Rochelle.
You know, these are great examples that people are reading. I'm so glad we're doing this. But I still have a question. You said somewhere about the 30% um, that there would be fiction in it. And I'm wondering, like, could you give us an example? Like, because you're telling people to not be so specific. So is that how you're telling us to remove the chance for fiction to be in there?
Yeah, because when we get into our perspective, like when Carol's talking about her twin sister, that's Carol's perspective, not that Drew isn't my perspective. When we pinpoint that perspective,
Okay.
we kind of get off track of the resentment a little bit because we're a little more focused on the problem than we are the resentment, which is ours. I don't want to tell Carol not to do it that way, but I do want Carol to do it the best way possible.
So we want to stay away, or Carol wants to stay away from her perception of what her sister's intent was. Um,
Yeah, because we
you
don't
know,
know. We don't know someone else's intent, which their intent doesn't really make up the resentment. The resentment is made up in our minds. So,
I remember, and I'm back to my brother again, when I did this the first time about my brother who hadn't spoken to me in 25 years. Um, in my mind, I was sure that my mother treated him a certain way, that he was like the prince. And and when we finally talked, and it was recent, he said, "Well, I didn't say anything about that," but he said, "You probably didn't know that she did these things to me or said I was already off to college and he wasn't yet. He was still home. There truly was no way for me to know what she was saying to him, but in my mind, he was like he was treated well and I wasn't. So I attributed everything to that when it probably wasn't. And maybe it was 30%, maybe 30% that I thought just wasn't true, but I was sure it was true.
yeah. And 30% is a low number. I left it
Yeah,
because we have to assume a third of what we're thinking is BS. We just, like with your brother, you don't know because you don't know. You weren't there. You didn't have his experience. You weren't able to witness what went on. So we want to that's what we're learning to do, is staying out of that stuff because it gets us into trouble.
right.
It gets us into resentments. It gets us into thinking we're better than, or, we're self-centered. It's that self crap that we do. So we want to make sure that even when we're praying, that we're not praying in a self-centered way or in a, I don't want you to feel like you can lead God into the same idea that you have. Like if you have an idea, if I think that Drew is a horrific person, I'm probably going to at some point think that I can convince God of the same thing.
Right.
That's how delusional we are with our thinking.
Made sense to me.
Yeah. So that in that 30% number, that you, like you said, now you know that there's some fiction to your story because you didn't
Right.
have the whole story. So the 30% is a low number. It's probably a lot higher.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I have two things. I think the first thing I'll read the the prayer, and then I also did the picture.
Oh,
So
good.
so I didn't. I'm just going to read the general version that I did. So, God, when a person offends me, I remember this is a sick person. Help me be open to forgive, even if I don't like them. Help me remember that hate produces no wealth and produces no happiness. Help me imagine that they are my first cousin dying of cancer. God, please help me remain teachable and kind for me, not them. Save me from wrath. God help me.
Okay. Well, Mark, I'm going to send you home to rewrite that. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Some of your statements are a little too negative. Because we want to approach this in a positive way so that we can get something positive out of it. And we've got to remember that this is our problem, not the person that we think is bothering us. The person that's bothering us is we are bothered by them because we're bothered. It's really not the person. And if it wasn't that particular person, somebody else would come in and fit in those shoes. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I'd like you to do is come back a little bit and get closer to the original prayer. And when you're looking at the prayer, try to look at it from the perspective of more of a positive view, because we want a positive outcome. And it's really hard to get a positive outcome if we have a negative input. So let's take some of those statements that you made and just give them some flipping or some turning so that they're more positive than they are negative. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, reframe it.
Yeah. I want you to reframe it, even though, you know, this person or people that we're talking about is feeling like it's really giving you a lot of dismay. They're actually not. So we want the release to come for ourselves. We at this point, we don't even care about the other person, really, in a sense. They're in our prayer, but we want to get well so that we don't have these people in our life or have these people behaving the way that we think they're behaving. We might need to move on from these people, or we might need to restructure the relationship, or we need to seek out different people, or whatever it is. We want this to have an end result that's positive for you. And at the very least, we want the resentment removed, at the very, very least. Because once the resentment is removed, people are going to start looking different to you and seeming different to you and even behaving different. You're going to see them behave differently. Even though they look like they're doing the same things, it's going to affect you differently because the effect is coming from you, even though it's their behavior.
Okay, I can redo that. Do you want me to show you the picture or?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. Let's see. So, okay. So, can you see it?
All right, so I see, let me see. I'll spotlight it. Can everybody see it? All right, so tell us the story.
So when resentments take over, it leaves me kind of locked in myself. So I drew a picture of someone without a mouth, and then the hands are up, sort of like to keep people away, because the resentments in of itself keep people away. And then there's a bird in the background thinking about a black crow, because essentially, like resentments, if they continue, they lead to death.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
so that's sort of like what I was going for.
I love it. So your self-imposed prison sounds like you're trapped in your body without a voice.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. That's fantastic. So keep that picture because we're going to do another one at the end. I'm hopefully going to see changes in people's pictures. Did anyone else have a picture tonight that they brought? Oh, Rochelle, let's see your picture.
Let me just, how do I do this? I guess I just hold it up.
Yeah. Are you on a phone or an iPad?
I'm on a laptop.
Okay, so just put it up near your
So,
camera.
you know what? I can, because I'm a co-host, I think I could
You could share it.
share it. I don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to worry about it. But can you see that? Let me see. Let me do
All
the
right,
view.
so move it up like to the level of your
All right.
face.
Let me just do the
Camera.
view thing and then I can view. And then here we go. Well, that didn't work.
Is it possible you could share the whole screen with us? This way we could see the pictures better.
Uh,
Do you know how to share screen?
yeah, I
Yeah,
do
you know, like
usually.
instead of like showing the prayer now, we can go back to the prayer later. We can go back to the prayer later, share
Oh,
the
I see
screen
what
so
you're
we can,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah. So then let me see if I can share my screen. Yeah. I don't know where it is. Oh, share right there where
Yeah,
it's
just share.
share. Duh. No, I don't know where.
No, no, if you just put your if even if you just put your drawing up to your camera, at least we'll have a better picture of it now
Spotlight
instead
it.
of, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
All right, there
There
we go.
you go.
All
Okay.
right.
Perfect.
So tell us the story.
Okay.
Okay. So I suffer from uh the doom scrolling. I'm retired, I'm a widow, and like I wrote on the bottom, who needs me? Nobody. My kid's grown. They don't live in the same state. My husband's dead. I don't have to work anymore. I'm financially secure. So if I stayed in bed all day, it wouldn't make any difference. It wouldn't matter to anybody. So what I did was I called it choices and I used my little gray, nobody's touched these crayons since she's 17, but I used the crayon. And this is the door to my bedroom, which I put stars around, reminding myself that there is a door. I could get out if I chose. That's my bed, and that's me in half the bed because I said I'm a widow. And then and the little yellow thing in my hand is my iPhone because I sit on that damn thing all morning, all morning. And then around it, I'm in a 12-step group where somebody said it's my rule book. She talked about a rule book. So I wrote there about my rule book. And then over here, it's like my mother's rule book, my mother's words that float around. And I don't know if anybody's had this experience where you open your mouth and your mother's words come out
Oh yeah.
and you go, how did that happen? How did that happen? So, and then I actually put my Kindle here. I have a Kindle because I read on a Kindle. But to be perfectly honest, I haven't been reading. I just play video games. And I have a Kindle sitting right there that I could pick up and at least use my brain. So this speaks to my process addiction. And if I get out the door, that's a big deal for me. And if I can get outside, that's a big deal. And my therapist always said, go outside, take your shoes off, and put your feet on the ground. Put your feet on the grass, interface with nature. So that's my drawing.
So your prison is your bed,
Right.
and if you don't get out of your bed, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and nobody knows. There isn't like stuck in bed police. There
Mhm.
isn't somebody calling to say, you need to get out of bed. I know that. I know it would be healthier for me to get out of bed and put down and I've thought about, I don't know if anybody's done this. I mean, this is how crazy. I thought about locking my phone up in like they tell you sometimes when you do
Timer
these,
ones. Yep.
yeah, like put it in a box. But I live by myself and I'm 77, so if, something happens to me, I rationalize this by saying I need my phone right there so I can call 911 or call a friend or what, because I'm all by myself. And the truth is that I'm holding on to that phone because that's my friend, and I have friends. So it's very convoluted. It's very convoluted and distressing.
They're all convoluted.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's what it's all about. So, you have to look at it and say, how trapped am I in this existence? And you say, well, I could get out of bed, but I don't. Well, we all could get out of our own prisons and we don't.
Right.
It
I
doesn't.
think I've been in program for a million years, and it's only been in recent years that I heard anybody talking about process addiction. It was alcohol, drugs, food, those were but this process addiction is just a killer.
Biggest percentage of people now too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think also because technology, I don't have to do anything. I can lock the alarm on my door. I can turn on the heat from my phone. We can do almost anything from our phones, and that's really seductive and dangerous for me.
Right. So now we can't function without them. It was a very good setup, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's how they make the money. If you are on there, they're making money.
Right.
Thank you, Rochelle. Hi, Linda. All right, let me switch you two around. Okay. All right. All right, Linda, go ahead.
Okay, wait, I think I'm gonna have to turn my blur off. Can you see it?
I can see a beautiful ocean.
I wish that was my drawing. Wait, I have to turn my, wait,
You'd be
hold
in the
on, I
wrong
might have
workshop if it was.
wait, I might have to turn my, I don't know where it is. Oh, in video. Wait, hold on. Let me see. My God, video. Now, is there anything coming up?
A little bit. Wait a minute. Go closer to the camera. I can kind of see it, but it's
The camera's focused on you. If you
yeah.
put
Your face
it in
behind
front of
it.
your face, put
Yeah.
your face behind it.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, now
Up.
put it a little
Better?
closer. There we
Yeah,
go.
there you go. There you go.
Up,
Oh,
Uh-oh,
in and out, in and out.
I lost it.
Up.
Uh-oh, it went away, then it went away.
A little bit further away. Nope, go closer in.
Oh, closer in.
Oh, where did it
Oh
go?
no, where'd it go? It was there.
It was.
I can't. It was there, then it went away.
Oh, so
How did I turn?
no, I don't know why we can't see it. So weird.
Oh, there it is.
oh, just leave it like that.
Yep, don't move.
Leave it like that?
Don't move.
Okay.
Tell us about your picture.
Well, it was, I guess I should be in a car because when I have resentment, I kind of close away. I kind of go away and look outside and try to find something to take my focus away. So I kind of drew a tree and a sun, but my ego gets in the way and I smile like I'm not hurting, but I'm hurting. And I kind of look at nature to try and let it go, but sometimes that doesn't work. So I have their fear from the sun. When the sun's not there, I kind of lock myself down on the ground and just kind of isolate,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
So it's a smiley face, but not smiling on the inside, but only on the outside. And then it's like I find some.
So your prison is isolation.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Makes a lot of sense. Very common. Very good. Now hold on to that because we're going to have a revision at some point. All right. Thank you.
Can I?
Will do.
Very nice.
Can I share my drawing?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I started on a redrawing of the one that I did last time, and I'm not done with it yet, but I have a pencil drawing of it. I don't have a pen drawing of it yet. But it's like a little bit different, but I just wanted to show what I have.
Yep.
And I think it's better than the last one. Up,
Here we go. Oh, all right. So
up,
your,
up.
your camera's moving.
My camera's moving. It does that.
Oh, okay. Stay right. Yeah, if your camera wouldn't move, it would be fine. All right, there we go. Right there. So I'm looking at something that looks like the Incredible Hulk.
No, it's me. It's looking down on me and it's raining. And the
Oh,
rain is my resentments and my debts.
oh,
And it's like falling down on me and I'm trying to cover myself, but I can't. And it terrifies me.
all right. So your prison is
Good question. But oh, you can't see the top of the drawing, which is like all this rain coming down.
okay. So how would we? Let's see. So your prison could be bad weather.
It
What
could
do you,
be.
when you feel like you're in prison? What makes you feel that way? What gets you there? I mean, clearly it's your addiction and the way that you think, but how would you show us?
Um, I'm totally alone, and even though I'm probably not, but I'm totally alone, and I'm trying to prevent this stuff from hitting me, and it's not preventing it from hitting me at all.
Okay. Yeah, because that sounds very
That
similar.
rain, yeah, I mean, like the hand, my hands may be deflecting some of it, but most of it's just getting me wet.
Right, right. So you feel pretty unprotected.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good. Well, not good. It's
no.
good
Well,
representation.
hopefully I'll get an umbrella here.
Hmm. Yes, you will. When you keep saying these prayers, you absolutely will. Absolutely. But think about that. Think about your drawing and think about what makes me feel trapped. Like if there was like for me, I felt like I always had chains on it and I was pulling the chains around and I was always stuck, even though the chains weren't attached to anything. So think about what grounds you, what brings you to your knees.
All right, to be continued.
Okay, sounds good to me. I love revisions, don't worry.
I'm a revisioner.
Good. Okay, Rita. I might have skipped over you. I didn't see you till all the other faces moved. So I
Oh,
apologize.
okay, that's okay. Um, I don't have near the graphics that the rest of you have. I am sorry, I'm not a graphic artist. So can you hear me?
Yep, yep.
Okay. Yeah, my I'm almost embarrassed to show you what I
No,
have.
no, no. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. None of us are artists.
All right, this is what I have. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Okay. So we have, are you holding dumbbells?
Yes, I am.
See, good drawing. And what do we have over here? Food. We got some food.
Food.
Okay.
Yes. So this is me, and I wrote thoughts, overthinking, and what else? Oh, repeat. Because
Yeah.
when I'm resentful, I just think and think and think and overthink things. And what would you say last week or the week before? Resentments are when we keep replaying something and feeling it over and over in our mind. I'm really good at doing that. Um, really good at doing that. So yeah, I let things weight me down and then I just keep thinking about them and repeating them over and over. And
All
then
right.
of course I feel bad, I eat, right?
So you're a prisoner of your own mind.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And yeah,
Your
my
mind and
mind
your
and
thoughts. Your thoughts are running your life, which,
yep.
when we go back a few lessons ago, we realize our thoughts are not real. They're
Yep.
skewed, they're delusional. So at some point, you're going to make the switch and say, I'm not going to allow the unrealistic thoughts in my life to run my life. You will be able to do that, especially through the resentment prayer. When you release all of that and you have that intention of release, it's going to affect all of your being. It's not just going to affect your resentment. It's going to affect everything that leads up to the resentment or is part of the resentment. Because when the resentment goes, all the crap that came with it goes with it when it leaves.
Okay, I wrote a prayer too. Can I read it
Tell
to
us
you?
the prayer.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Father God, X like me is struggling spiritually. Help me to show X compassion and love. Father, please remove this resentment towards X from me and give me peace of mind. Father, help me to be empathetic in my thinking and release these thoughts that are not useful to my recovery. Thank you for helping me, Father, and taking care of me.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay.
Yep. So you can use that as a generic one for all of your resentments, or you can take your resentments and tweak them a little bit to each person. Depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
You know, if you have 100 resentments, it might feel a little daunting to make that many prayers. But if you know, I would say at least with the shark bite ones, which is 4 or 5, maybe 6 people, 8 at the most, maybe, you know.
Okay.
And maybe do those individually and leave the generic one for the rest of the resentments.
Okay.
Which you may or may not even need to do the prayer, because what seems to happen is when the big ones go away, the small ones they're just not there anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So you might not need them, but I would say try that and see how that works.
Okay. Will do. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Right. Rita. Nope, that's you. Your hand's still raised. All right. So that's everyone. Did anyone else have a share that they wanted to share, or have any questions or comments? Anybody? I'm really grateful that so many people showed their pictures, and they were all fantastic, and they all, in a very small amount of drawing, told a really big and important story about yourselves. You know, we have this little sketch that we did, but it's so powerful when you think about that sketch and what it represents, you know, the person behind that sketch, because this is the person we want to put in the past, and we want to go forward to the new person, the healed person, you know, the person that's not dragging themselves through life with all the resentments on their back and just not getting anywhere, just not happening. Hi, Sarah.
Hi there. I just want to say that I've just found this whole discussion really, really valuable and helpful. Um, uh, I have not, I, I have the prayers, and I have done the steps several times, and it is that I don't have resentments. I do have some resentments, but I recognize it's the ball is in my court. It's the way I'm reacting to the people around me. But I've really I just want to thank the people who did share what they wrote. And some lovely, really beautiful prayers. And I have taken pictures with my camera, and it's just been a very helpful session. And uh, I'm still, resentments come up. Life keeps happening, which is why I continue working on the 12 steps. Um, and you can't do it by yourself. And I also am an isolator. Um, I tend to, like the lady who's in her bedroom. I will. It's like my she cave. Now I'm married, and my husband's on a little bit different path. He's out there in the living room, watching Fox News, and that's not my style, but that's what he does. And we agree on the things we agree on, the things we don't agree on. Uh, I just he does his thing, I do my thing, and we just try to relate on. We've been together for 58 years, so we share quite a history. But growing old together, we're each doing it. What is it? The Frank Sinatra song? I did it my way, and his way is different from my way, and we're gradually talking a little more and respecting each other's differences. And I've got two grown daughters, and we have good family relationships, and it's just that, yeah, I wouldn't be here without the 12 steps and without these things helping me. So anyway, I don't really have anything to share. I just want to say thank you for the people who did share, and it was very valuable experience to hear what you're doing. And I can certainly empathize with what you're, because I'm along there with you. It's like we're all in a different boat and we're going down the river together and sharing our experience. Yeah. So.
Yep, exactly. Thank you,
anyway,
Sarah.
thank you. Okay.
And, you made a good point. We do eventually get to a place where we don't have to formally do resentments. And at some point throughout our day, when we feel that resentment kind of feelings start to percolate, we can pull out this prayer and say it right away. And boom, gone, poof. So
Thank you.
I mean, it is an eventuality that we are going to get to a place where the resentments come and go really
all the time.
Yes, it's not a big deal. It's less than a mosquito bite. All right, Sue.
Hi, everyone. I just want to introduce myself. I've been away for quite a while, and I'm 28 years plus sober, AA, and I did Herb's work last year. Went through it all, and after 28 years of sobriety. But what I want to say is that, and I'm catching up, by the way, because I've been out of the country. Been very blessed. I went on a pilgrimage of the soul in Egypt, and I was really wanting to get back in, and particularly with the fourth step, and really get this, the columns and all of that, fine tune it. But what I want to say is, I was so moved and transformed by this resentment prayer. And I used it in terms of the resentments that I didn't know that I didn't know I was still holding on to some resentments from my parents. Yeah. My mom's been gone, died early, been gone 47 years. My dad's been 22 years, and around my brother. And I tell you, saying that prayer, and I believe Herb said, just keep saying it if it's 30 days or more. And I had such a shift. And there's someone right now that, I'm triggered by and disturbed by, and it's not even somebody who's in my life all the time, but it was some experience that I had when I was away. But I'm using that prayer again. And I guess I have revised it myself somewhat and just putting some other words in. So I'm going to kind of fine tune it and maybe share it next week or the week after. But I just want to reinforce this, the power of it is just incredible. It's so freeing.
It's transformative.
Yes.
Like no other prayer. I mean, there's a lot of great prayers in the book, but this particular prayer really, it's phenomenal. I mean, I don't know anyone that hasn't had an amazing effect from this prayer.
Yes.
I've never heard anyone say, oh, that prayer does nothing for me. Not a single person. And the beauty of it is you can make it specific to certain things, without doing too much to it, but you can make it specific. Yeah. And you don't have to sit down and do it. You can be doing your daily thing and you're you get 10 or 12 resentments and you're doing them in your head, or by memory or whatever. It's not that hard, but the results are fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
And thank you for pointing out that, if there is a resentment, well, I mean, I'm human, it's going to happen. It's not going to go away totally by any means, that to be able to take it out and to say it, it's just,
Exactly.
I mean, it can have some effect in terms of the 10th step, etc. So I appreciate you offering that as another possibility. So, but I just wanted to say hello, and I'm over here, and I am alive, and getting back
Glad
into
to
it.
see you. Glad you had a great trip.
Yeah, it was transfer. It was amazing. I'm very blessed.
Next week, bring us your picture too, because we really enjoy the pictures.
Pictures of what?
All right. So what people were showing, because you missed a few weeks.
Yeah, I have to go back and
15 Herb's pathetic Herbie behind the bars, and there's really no.
Yes.
So I asked people to make their own pathetic Herbie of themselves. What would your prison look like if you had to do caricature, a drawing, a painting, however, whatever medium you want to use, and just show us your prison of whatever it's been.
Okay.
All right.
I'll get that completed. But I've just got a couple more videos to catch up on. But thank you, everyone. I really appreciate all your sharing. It's been very impactful. Thank you.
All right. So I think anyone else have any questions or comments? Are we good? All right. So it's 10 o'clock. So I'm going to do the Serenity Prayer if anyone would like to join in. And again, if you have any questions, shoot me, an email or whatever. Mark, if you want to send me your prayer and I can look at it a little bit better, see it in writing, I can take a look at it if you want, or, anybody for that matter. All right. God, grant me this
serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change
the things
I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thy will be done, not mine.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your shares.
Thank you. Have a great week. Work on your drawings.
Thank you.
I just want to see them.